and welcome to Tabletop for One. Today I am doing my top 10 solo games that were published in 2022. I'm making this list late into January because some of the games I received towards the end of last year, and I have only now just been able to play them and get a good feel for them and rank them on the list. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and go with number 10. Now, number 10 is a standalone expansion sequel to a roll and write that was published in 2021 called On Tour. And this time around, we have On Tour, New York and Paris. And what makes this stand out is that it was designed by Albin Biard. Albin Biard took the previous designer's game and added his transportation touch to it. You'll recognize aspects of tramways in this game, and it really adds such a great depth to the game. Not that On Tour was bad. I really enjoyed the original On Tour, but this one added the tramways or the ferries and the riverboat in, and it just gives you all these extra options to choose when placing the numbers on the board. And so I was very happy with this edition, and I highly recommend it if you like roll and writes, because this is a very fun, accessible roll and write game with a beat your own score style of solo mode, and it provides a great experience and is a worthy entry into the roll and write genre. All right, we're going to go on to number 9. Now, number 9 is another spin-off. It's not an expansion. This is its own deal. And instead of coming up with your own wonderful world, this time you come with your own wonderful kingdom. Now, It's a Wonderful Kingdom was delivered early last year, and I got the Kickstarter edition. I know that it was available in some of the conventions in late 2021, but the actual fulfillment of the game didn't happen until January and February of 2022. And so this game takes the It's a Wonderful World engine building fun and turns it up a notch, because it adds a whole bunch of different modules to the game. It still has a bunch of scenarios with scoring thresholds, but it has also these goals that you have to deal with, and one of them's like these giant rats come and invade your kingdom, and you gotta like take them out, or else you're gonna get negative points. It adds such a great thematic feel to it, as well as keeping true to the engine building that you know from It's a Wonderful World. And so I'm very, very impressed with how they made a different game, yet still retain that same soul from It's a Wonderful World. And I'm very happy to own both, because they provide a different experience, while, interestingly enough, the same kind of gameplay. So there you have it. That's It's a Wonderful World, number 8. And we're going to move on to a surprise that came at the end of the year last year. Now, I've already made some solo playthroughs of this game, and I've talked about how I really don't like the rule book, but boy, is there a really good game underneath that bad rule book, and that's going to be One Deck Galaxy. Now, One Deck Galaxy may sound like a sequel or a reskin of One Deck Dungeon, and I'm telling you, it is something different. Yes, there are some very similar mechanics, especially the dice rolling and the dice placement, but the way everything else plays out is quite different. In fact, it is a step up in complexity. I would give it a solid 1-point gain in its weight rating, because of how much more depth there is to One Deck Galaxy than One Deck Dungeon. And it works really well. And the different adversary setups and your choice of your home world and your society type allow for a huge amount of variation. And the choices you have to make with your dice are much more plentiful. You have your abilities like before, but you don't spend dice to activate abilities. You spend tech tokens, and you can earn these tech tokens by increasing your stats. And you also level up your federation by completing certain goals based off of your society. So some of them would be like having a certain amount of science researched, or playing or using 5 tech skills in one turn, kind of thing. And so you have these interesting little goals to try and level up your federation, because in order to encounter your adversary, you have to level up over time before the adversary overtakes you. And there's, I think, 6 different adversaries, and they have different difficulties. You can flip the adversary card to the other side for a higher difficulty, and they all play different, and it's so much fun. I was so surprised by the game. Once again, it's marred with a very difficult rule book to get through. It's not very intuitive, but once you get through and once you get the feel for the play, oh man, it's so good. And you just keep going back for it. I just want to play it again and again. But it does take like an hour and a half if you're going to beat the game, maybe less if you lose, but it doesn't feel like it. Like I did my hour and 40-minute playthrough, and it felt like a half hour. By the time I was done with it, I was like, I looked at the time recorded, and oh my goodness, it's gone by so quickly. So very happy with that game. Very surprised by it. So that makes my number 8. And now we're gonna go on to the latest in the T series, and that's Tiletum, or Tiletum, or Tiletum. Everybody's got a way to pronounce it in this, but of course the T series is, popular by Daniele Ticini, who's made quite a few games, and one of my favorite games, of course, is Trismegistus, which has engine building combo craziness with the alchemy theme. But Tiletum, he takes a whole lot of his games and takes various mechanics from each of his games, and he places it in Tiletum. You've got dice drafting that feels like Tekhenu. You've got combos that feel like Trismegistus. And you've got map movement that feels like the Voyages of Marco Polo. By the way, Ticini counts that as a T game because it starts with the. But anyways, you got all these pieces that are put together. And of course, he teamed up with Simone Luciani, who's just a great designer as well. His mechanics run so smoothly, and you can see how the two of them put their efforts together to provide a very fun, cohesive, engaging experience. It doesn't rate higher on my list because the AI is not as smooth as I like AIs to be. It's good, it's challenging, but I would prefer less complex AIs. Nevertheless, the game design is amazing, and I'm very, very happy with Tiletum. So that is my number 7, and we are going to move on to number 6. Now this one took the board game world by storm when it fulfilled late last year. And it got a lot of mixed reviews. Some people didn't like it. Some people thought there were too many mechanisms put together. But a lot of people did like it. And in fact, a lot of solo players have liked it because all those mechanisms put together and all the little mini games that you play in this one are a whole lot of fun. And that's going to be Endless Winter. Now, Endless Winter is designed by Stan Kordonsky. Also developed by Johnny Pack, who I'm a big fan of, and you can see how those two work together in this game. But the game, apart from it being extremely well produced and the icons are really well done and everything like that, you do have to learn a lot of icons, but after a play or two, you got them down. But the game is so much fun, and it's not worker placement. It's really just action selection. I mean, I know worker placement is a kind of action selection, but you get 4 actions around, and you choose which action you're going to do. You don't block the AI in that way. But the game is, there's so many things to do in the game, and I don't know, you can't really focus. There's area control where you're building out your encampments throughout this map. There's this burial track that you try to move up as you go, and you're burying cards, which are going to score you points at the end. And there's these eclipse scorings. Eclipses are like the rounds, and during the eclipse you'll score based on certain criteria, and there's just so many things to do, and it's so much fun. And the AI is really smooth. I mean, you're drawing a card, looking at the action that it's going to take, and it tells you exactly what the AI is going to do, and it's easy to operate, very streamlined. I do recommend that you start off in the hard mode right off the bat. I think the normal is just too easy. But the hard mode provides a decent challenge and is quite fun. The expansions are not necessary. People say the Ancestors expansion is necessary. I disagree. Yes, it adds variety to the cards, but I think you only need that if you've played it a lot and are looking for some extra variety. You definitely don't need the expansions right off the bat, but they are fun. You know, the cave drawing expansion and doing the little board that you draw on and all that, that's a whole lot of fun. The rivers add some extra depth to the map, and yeah, the expansions are good, just not necessary. So I know some people will disagree with me on that, but that's that's my view on it. But Endless Winter will take the number 6 spot, and I so greatly enjoy it. All right, so we are going to move on to number 5, and number 5 is going to be the first and not the only war game on this list. Now, if you've ever played Twilight Struggle and wanted a solo, lighter version of Twilight Struggle, this is going to be your game. And by the way, if you haven't played Twilight Struggle, I know it's not a solo game, although I think they do have a solo version out now. But you should play it sometime, someday. But this one came out, and there hasn't been a whole lot of buzz. But the game is such a great game. It is designed for 1 or 2 players, runs super smooth, and this is Flashpoint South China Sea. Now, Flashpoint South China Sea takes the card-driven mechanics of Twilight Struggle and the push and pull, tug of war type strategic gameplay, and makes it in like a short lunchtime kind of solo experience. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's very thematic. It's kind of prophetic because, you know, who knows what'll happen in the future, but many people have theorized that a war is going to happen in that area. But it's so interesting and intriguing, and it's a very good entry-level strategic war game. I highly recommend it as one that you would try if you are looking to get into wargaming on the strategic level. On the tactical level, I would advise other games, but Flashpoint South China Sea really did an amazing job to streamline the strategic war game, bring it to your tabletop, and provide an engaging, easy to run solo experience that just puts other solo war game experiences to shame. I'm sorry, it does. It's just really well done. It's really showing you how GMT is coming along with these great solo modes that are streamlined and easy to run. And that's I think it's reaching new crowds and new gamers, especially in the solo community. So I'm very happy with this game. It plays half hour, 45 minutes maybe, and it's a whole lot of fun. All right, speaking of war games, here's the other one. Now, this one is the 4th in a series called the Valiant Defense series, and it's a tower defense kind of tactical war game. And You may have heard of its predecessors, especially the first one, Pavlov's House, which took the solo board gaming community by storm when it came out because it basically seemed like it had never been done before, at least not the way that that it had been done. And now David Thompson is the designer of these 4 games, and boy, he keeps bringing those designs and putting out some great games. And this one is as just as good as the others, and that's going to be Lanzerath Ridge. And this is about the Battle of the Bulge. And so you play these troops in the Lanzerath Ridge, and they're hidden behind trees and stuff, and you've got these advancing German troops on your position, and you've got to choose which soldiers you're going to use to attack the advancing troops, or perhaps the machine guns that have shown up. And you roll dice for all your combat rolls. The dice are not unforgiving; they're reasonable, and you have abilities to mitigate the dice rolls. But it's so thematic and so engaging and so much fun, and it is hard. Like, I have not beaten it yet. I have had the draw where you get to the 4th attack phase, or the 4th attack period, and I got a draw. So I didn't lose; it was a draw. But oh man, it gets so close, and to not beat it, it's quite difficult. But the game really keeps you engaged, and it's I hate to use this word, but it can be a little stressful because like you actually have to choose sometimes which soldiers are going to live and which ones are going to die. When you position them a certain way, and knowing that it's a good chance that they're going to die when that enemy breaks through that line. My only complaint about the game so far is that every time I play it, it seems like I'm playing it exactly the same way. The cards have come out differently and everything, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of variation in my decision making, but it doesn't take away from the gameplay in the end, because it's just really engaging, really thematic, and you're really trying to do everything you can to preserve your soldiers' lives and keep them in the fight until the very end. So it's a really great game. If you want to try out one of the Valiant Defense series, by all means, check out Lanzerath Ridge. It also happens to have the best art of the series, in my opinion. Nils Johansson, yeah, he's the one who did the art for Lanzerath Ridge, and he did a phenomenal job. The board is beautiful, and the counters look like some of the best war game counters I've seen in a while. And so I'm very happy with this game. David Thompson is one of my favorite designers, and you probably know him from Undaunted, or For What Remains, Sniper Elite, and other games as well. He's out there. You guys know him, and he's such a great designer. So check it out. That was my number 4, Lanzerath Ridge. All right. So now we are moving on to the top Euro of last year for me. And there's no other way to describe this one than an elegant masterpiece. And I'm going to tell you that I'm so impressed by this game, by every aspect of it, that I can't wait to review it, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Sorry, spoiler alert. But that is Carnegie. Now, Carnegie, by Xavier Georges, he puts together these intricate systems of action selection and route building, and the way you use your workers. You're sending them out to the board, you're bringing them back to the board, gaining income, trying to compete with the bot as the bot's doing certain actions. And you know some of the actions that the bot's going to do. If you're playing normal mode, you know all but 5 of the actions, 5 of the turns that the bot is going to do. And so there's sometimes when you're like, if I do this action, that's the one he wants to do, he'll get an extra bonus. Or maybe I should do something else that won't give him that bonus. And you have these agonizing decisions because I can't tell you how many times that came up. Okay, the next card that he's going to use, that's the action I want to use for my turn. And I don't want to give him that benefit, but I really need to do that action. And so he has these difficult decisions to make as you're trying to build out your industry across the United States and connect the great big cities and work towards these great end game bonuses with the donations. On top of that, like the way the bot works is really, really smooth, right? You turn over a card, you do the action. It's pretty much one action, and then you move on to your turn. But when he takes the end game scoring spots, when he scores those at the end, it has to do with what you did, not with what the bot did. So if the bot scores however many offices he built, right? He scores for that one. It's actually however many you build. So if you see him get that end game scoring early on, you may not want to build anymore because it's going to get him more points, you know, or if he gets the one that says discard a resource token, and he gets 2 points for every resource token, and you've got 6 resource tokens at the end of the game, that's going to give him 12 points. So you may want to look at a way to spend all those before the end of the game. So there's some really interesting ways that him taking those donation spots grants you the ability to block him by reducing his potential points in the end. And that's how I beat him in the end, is I denied him a whole bunch of endgame points while trying to keep my engine going and pushing further on moving my workers out to the board. You send them on missions, and sending them on missions and recalling them back to my company. And I was able to beat the bot. It's very exciting, and it's so streamlined and so fun. Plays in about an hour. The graphic design is excellent. It looks heavier than it actually is. And once you get the icons down and understand why you're doing what you're doing, I highly recommend you read the endgame scoring before anything else, so you know why you're doing what you're doing. But man, when you play that game, you feel like you accomplished something even when you lose. It's like you get to the end and you're like, wow, look at all these things that I did, and oh man, was it fun doing it. So Carnegie, man, an elegant game, so much fun, so engaging, such great decision making, and the design, I hand it to the designer. He truly made a masterpiece with that game. All right, we are down to the last 2, and it was very difficult to choose between these 2 because as it stands, one of them is my most played game of this year so far, as well as one of the most played games of last year. And the other one is one that I've already called a perfect game. So choosing between these 2 games has been very difficult. And then so I based my decision on which one takes the number 1 spot off of what gives the best overall solo experience. And so number 2 then is going to be the Turing Machine. The Turing Machine, designed by Fabian Greidel and Johan Levitt, is a logic deduction puzzler. And you set up these verifiers and criterias on the board. And you're basically asking the computer a question based off of a 3-digit number that you chose. So let's say you choose 351. And the numbers are in colors as well. So it's blue, yellow, purple. So if the 3 is blue, you may ask one of the cards, ask the computer via one of the cards if the 3 is equal to 3, greater than 3, or less than 3. And so in this case, if I chose 3 for my blue color, then I'm going to verify it against this card, and it's going to tell me if that's correct or incorrect. And so you line up these punch cards, all 3 numbers, and the verifier, and the verifier sheet has a bunch of check marks and X's. But when you line up all 3 punch cards, there's only one little hole that shows through, and it'll show through to an X or a check mark on there. And it's really a neat, I hate to use the term gimmick, but it's really a neat gimmick to simulate the idea that you're using a punch card computer. And it gives you an answer, and then you use your answers. You're allowed to ask 3 questions per round, and then you change your numbers if you want to. And then you ask more questions. And once you've figured it out, then you verify on an online app on a website if you got the correct answer. And then you also compare your score against the machine. The machine takes a certain amount of rounds and questions to get its answer. And so it really provides a great experience. There's a daily challenge. There's increasing difficulty. There's extreme mode, and I think it's like legendary mode or impossible nightmare. That's what it is, nightmare mode. And so you can increase the difficulty all you want. And you can do the daily challenge. You can do a random challenge. There's over 7 million combinations of challenges in this game. Plenty of replayability. And I tell you what, it is my most played game this year so far, because I've played it nearly every day. I think I missed one day. And so far I've played it 36, I think, of the last 37 daily challenges. So I missed one day. And so it's been a very great experience. It plays quickly. We're talking 10-20 minutes max. And it's such a good game. I know that logic deduction puzzlers aren't for everyone, but I tell you what, you should give this one a try. Because of the customization on the difficulty, you don't have to feel like it's impossible for you. And it's not math. It sounds like it's math. It's not math. You're trying to deduce 3 numbers, but there's very little math involved other than addition and subtraction. And so it should be very very accessible to anyone, especially those who don't like doing math. So I highly recommend Turing Machine. It is such a great game. It is so worth the experience and a whole lot of fun. And I look forward to playing it every day for the rest of the year, because I plan on making this the most played game in my collection. All right, so number 1, the game that I have deemed a perfect game, came out with a standalone expansion this year. And maybe an expansion is a cheat for this list, but you can buy the expansion. You don't need the original game to play, and you can have one of the most amazing solo experiences out there, and that is Bullet Star. Now, Bullet, if you've seen my review, I have a lot of good things to say about it. It resembles the bullet hell or shoot 'em up genre of video games, where you've got a boss sending all sorts of amounts of bullets at you, and you're trying to dodge them, block them, even reflect them back to the boss. Well, Level 99 was able to take that genre of video game and bring it to the tabletop in such a good way that it so greatly resembles the video game experience. And so the game includes 8 heroines, and you can flip each of them over to be a boss. And so there's a whole bunch of different variability in the game and replayability just off of that. Each heroine plays differently, and they have their own deck of cards. Each boss plays differently, and they have their own deck of cards, and they have special abilities. And so each play is a different play and a unique experience, but it's still that same engaging gameplay where you have these these bullets coming down these 5 columns, and you have to try and use your abilities to move them, left to right, up and down, diagonal, whatever, and you try to get them into a pattern that matches one of your cards so that you can eliminate the bullets from your incoming board and send them to the boss. And if you send enough bullets to the boss, you'll take down one of its shields. And if you take down all 4 of its shields, you win the game. But if one of the bullets reaches the bottom of your incoming board, you're gonna lose a health, and you only have so many health. Some of them have 2, some of them have 3, some of them have 4. And so you got to be careful how many bullets you take on and how much you push your luck, because you're drawing from this bag. You have this bag full of bullets, and you're able to stop between draws and move the bullets and stuff, but you have to decide, do I want to keep drawing the bullet? This bullet's in the right spot, but I might need to move that bullet, but maybe I should draw another. And if you've watched one of my playthroughs, I push my luck way too much and end up losing because I just kept getting hit over and over again. But it's such a great experience. I have not grown bored with it. I don't think I ever will. It is the definitive solo experience. I think it's accessible to all. The anime theme may turn off some, but I say try it anyways. The game is so good. It is such an engaging, fun experience, and it's so unique. I don't think you're going to find any other solo game like it. Well, there you have it. That is my top 10 solo games published in 2022. You're going to have to let me know in the comments below what your top 10 games were. Maybe there were some crossovers. Maybe you had some that were on my list. I'd love to hear from you, so please comment below. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you like the content you see here. Other than that, I thank you very much for watching Tabletop for One, and have a great night.